If your man has stopped initiating sex, or if he seems more interested in his phone than in your body, stop. Before you blame yourself, before you buy another piece of lingerie, before you try harder, you need to know something. The problem is not what you think it is. It's not about your appearance. It's not about his testosterone. It's not even about how much he loves you. It's a broken biochemical pipeline in his brain. And here's what nobody tells you. You can fix it. Now, I know exactly how devastating this can feel. You're lying awake at 2 a.m., crying, wondering if you're still attractive to him. You're wondering if he's getting his needs met somewhere else. And that thought keeps you up at night. Now, you've tried everything, haven't you? You've tried giving him space. You've tried being more understanding about his stress. Maybe you even bought that lingerie that's still sitting in your drawer with the tags on. But nothing works. And the loneliness, it's eating you alive. Every time you try to be close, you feel him mentally check out. Like his body is there, but he isn't. You're starting to feel like roommates instead of lovers. The rejection is cutting deeper each time. And now you're scared. You're scared that passion that you once had might never come back. I'm Adam Lane Smith, the attachment specialist. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, thank you for your support. I need to tell you something, though, that might shock you. I've helped couples who haven't had sex in years reignite the kind of passion they thought was gone forever. And not with lingerie, not with date nights, not with trying harder, with science. Here's what I've discovered in my work with thousands of couples. Sexual decline, it's not about attraction or feelings or even physical chemistry. It's about broken attachment bonds that destroy the neurochemical foundation required for sustained sexual desire. Now, most couples try to fix bedroom problems with explicit sexual solutions. That's like trying to fix a car engine by polishing the paint on the outside. The real problem? It's happening inside your nervous systems, in the engine of that car. That's what we need to fix. And until you understand the biology of that desire, you'll keep trying solutions that can't possibly work. Now, I want you to listen very carefully to this video because the things I'm going to tell you in this video are fully interconnected. And if you want to truly find out why he's not having sex with you anymore and what to do about it, stick with me until the end of this video. You're going to learn the 4 invisible barriers that are actually killing his desire for you. You'll understand why all your bedroom fixes didn't work. And most importantly, you're going to learn how to rebuild real intimacy, even if it's been dead for years. The tips in this video have helped my couples go from no sex in a year to sex 3 times a week and great sex that they're both fully enjoying. So stick with me till the end. I want you to have every piece of information that you need. Now, first, we have to correct a lie that you've believed. There's a lie you've been told about male sexuality. Culture has brainwashed us into believing that men always want sex and we're ready at any moment, anytime we see something attractive. This myth is destroying relationships because it really ignores the neurochemical reality of sustained male sexual desire, especially in long-term relationships. So that when a man doesn't want sex, every woman assumes it's about attraction or low testosterone or work stress or he's having an affair. But science proves the real issue is broken emotional bonding pieces that kill his ability to feel sexual desire for you specifically. I'm going to give you a snapshot of all the solutions I'm going to lay out later in this video, but the reason your bedroom fixes haven't worked is because you're trying to stimulate dopamine in his brain, novelty and excitement, when the real problem is missing hormones and connections. I'm going to show you what we mean first. But first, let's talk about why lingerie and spicing things up actually makes it worse. Adding lingerie, spicing it up, yes, this is a dopamine fix. Novelty, excitement, make it fun. Maybe we add watching videos or making videos. But adding this performance pressure for both of you when you're already disconnected, and if his nervous system is already overwhelmed, it creates additional stress. That begins to flood his system with cortisol, with the opposite of what you want, and shuts down arousal even more. Now, focusing on novelty and excitement, that dopamine, when he lacks bonding foundations, oxytocin, a bonding hormone, or vasopressin, another bonding hormone, is only going to get so far. You're going to have a small spike and then crater into the ground. And if you're focusing on dopamine, you're now competing against all the other sources of dopamine in his life. For example, porn. If any of you out there have a man who watches porn but won't connect with you, that's why lingerie doesn't work. Because when you're going dopamine focused, there is no way you can possibly compete with the absolute battle that pornography brings on that screen for full dopamine flood. And you shouldn't have to, because that's not what you are supposed to be to him. In this video, I'm going to show you why you're not competing with porn and how to even eliminate porn from your marriage if that's a concern. Now let's talk about the real science of male arousal before we get into the killers of his desire, okay? People assume men see boobs and they want to have sex. They see a hot girl, they want to have sex. There are times for this, okay? Men can become aroused every 72 hours or so. They go through a process that would be biochemically maybe similar to a woman's cycle of ovulation, where it surges, testosterone goes up, and he goes, I'm feeling it. Ladies, you've been on your cycles, you know your ovulation. It's that time where you're like, could really use some love right about now. That's that feeling that men are supposed to get roughly every 72 hours. Roughly. Now, also, yes, men can be visually stimulated. You can see an attractive person and go make that connection. And also, there's supposed to be very specific, intimate, focused connections that are supposed to be happening. We'll talk about those here in a moment. And that's the driver of long-term marital relationship success for love and sex, just after the first year, okay? There's this bonding hormone called oxytocin. It's the primary driver of specific, focused male arousal after the first year of a relationship. Okay, research backs this up. Scientists are looking at using oxytocin spray up the nose as a replacement for Viagra. A lot of young men in their 20s and 30s are having exceedingly difficult erectile dysfunction because they're lacking this crucial hormone in their relationships. I'm going to talk to you about how to build this, but that's scary. A man who's 25 should not have ongoing, consistent, chronic erectile dysfunction in his long-term relationships and need to go get on Tinder to be able to get an erection. That's not normal for the human species. It's opposite of normal for us. Now, I will say this is how a man can be attracted to other women or porn with dopamine focus, but not to the woman in his life. Without oxytocin bonding, his sex drive becomes general. All right, every 72 hours I go up and I see something arousing and it triggers me, and I'm seeking dopamine just as a stress relief, but I have no actual bonding toward you. And at 5 to 7 months, novelty dopamine dies. So his dopamine toward you is dead at that point, okay? You don't stimulate him the same way without oxytocin. You don't stimulate dopamine release without oxytocin, so he doesn't get rewarded connecting with you. All you're left with is the mechanical every 72 hours, I want to crank one out, but then he just refocuses on something that does give him novelty and dopamine, pornography. Okay? This is the issue right here. Now, we need to specifically focus his sex drive on you. This myth that men must always be ready spontaneously after crawling out of a coal mine for 6 days, right? It ignores that male sexuality is in committed relationships, especially, it requires a bonding foundation to function properly. The powerful oxytocin bond that you're supposed to be getting buffers him against life stress, so it improves his libido even when work pressure would intrude. And it focuses his desire to you. We find that it increases arousal. It increases blood flow. It increases his orgasm strength. It increases his affection towards you, even non-sexually. So here's what's really happening. There are 4 specific barriers systematically destroying his ability to desire you. And until you understand these, every solution you try is going to fail. So let's go through those 4 invisible barriers. Number 1, the stress loop that shuts down his desire. Chronic stress is going to flood his system with cortisol, maybe 24/7, from work pressure, financial stress, relationship tension, his friends, his family, whoever. And this cortisol blocks oxytocin receptors. It makes them close. This makes his brain unable to process correct bonding signals from you. It's like trying to send love letters to your partner to a mailbox that's welded shut with no door. Your love letter is just going to bounce off the outside and scatter on the floor. No matter how beautiful your message is to him, it can't get through when his system is blocked from stress. Now, even bigger problem, this is tripled, more is 10 times, if he's avoidantly attached, because he's had exceedingly low oxytocin most of his life. He gets no GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, which shuts down cortisol. So now his system is unregulated. The lower oxytocin levels go, the lower GABA levels go, the more cortisol hits like that and destroys him. He has no buffer. Cortisol over time erodes testosterone badly. You've seen the research that testosterone levels in the West have plummeted, and even most of the places across the earth. Part of it's this overwhelming cortisol flood, unregulated with no oxytocin for most people. This shifts his brain away from any sexual thinking into problem-solving survival mode, and that begins to send do not reproduce signals to his body. It's a natural animal behavior during times of perceived threat, drought, starvation, famine, death. Do not reproduce. It turns down his body's signals. Ladies, if you've ever been overwhelmingly stressed about problems in your life and you think, wow, I have never been left less aroused than I am today, that's that man. His body does very similar. Now, I have so many clients come in where the woman, the wife is just throwing herself at her husband, doing anything. She's had surgeries. She wears the hottest lingerie. She does her makeup. She's always working out. Like some of them, literal supermodels from around the world. And they throw themselves at their husband, who it's like he's a dead log. There's no feeling, no connection. His stress level is so sky high, she may as well just not even be looking at him. This is why when we tell men, hey, just relax, it fails. He's flooded with a hijacked nervous system. His body's in survival mode where reproduction even feels dangerous. It turns it off on purpose. Now, every 72 hours, his body tries to get the engine to turn over, but he just takes the means of least resistance and cranks one out. And then there's a performance anxiety loop where sex becomes another source of stress he wants to avoid. Men who go into sex with their partner and have erectile dysfunction are less likely to want to initiate again because of the discomfort and shame. He wants to avoid that fear more than he wants any kind of pleasure. Now, the solution here is not relaxation techniques. It's systematically removing life stressors and building stress reduction partnerships. He needs to have his system actually properly worked on to build oxytocin and GABA to be resilient against cortisol. He's rock bottom. We need to reduce that and reduce life stressors, okay? That's barrier number one. Barrier number two, very similar. I get asked all the time, what is my attachment style? What is my attachment style? What is my attachment style? So I have finally launched the attachment assessment. This is not a short quiz that just spits out an answer after 3 seconds. This is a thorough, in-depth, science-backed assessment. Check it out on my website, adamlanesmith.com, and learn your attachment style, the severity of what you're dealing with, and some next steps you can take right now to build very secure attachment. There's something I call the oxytocin pipeline. Okay, male and female systems both require this to have a healthy sexual drive. The first step of this, okay, emotional safety. You have to both feel safe in the relationship, okay? For men, this feels like peace. For women, it feels like safety. It comes out to about the same thing. I need to feel safe in this relationship, like you're not going to let me down, abandon me, reject me, or attack me, okay? As you have safety, it opens those oxytocin receptors into emotional connection. Now, that emotional safety is also in your life, by the way. Most people don't feel safe in their life, even if they feel a little safe with their partner, so they can't open up receptors. Opening that receptor, that oxytocin receptor, allows for an emotional connection. The bare minimum of oxytocin begins to flow. But that creates a desire for more. See, it leads into non-sexual touch. Touch on the shoulder, a hug, a gentle kiss on the cheek, just being close, touches, just little non-sexual touches. Ladies, all the time that you say, man, I just wish he would touch me for no reason, right? What does that mean? Non-sexual touch that indicates oxytocin, that grows oxytocin. As you have non-sexual touch, oxytocin flows more. This leads into the desire for sexual touch, more caresses, more specific touching, groping, right? Rubbing, all kinds of fun that you might do in the kitchen as you pass. Little things that feel great. Now that builds our oxytocin toward foreplay. And we need about 10 to 15 minutes of foreplay, male and female, to grow the oxytocin. One reason that men in their 20s and 30s are now having massive erectile dysfunction is because they don't feel safe. They're not building emotional connection. There's no non-sexual touch. There's not even sexual touch. They ignore foreplay completely. So they leap with no oxytocin in their system into full intercourse. Yeah, your body's not meant to work that way. It's going to fail you about halfway through. Foreplay builds arousal. Women know this. Men miss out on it because they think they don't need it. Again, that myth. You're supposed to just like, light switch, buddy, go. But sexual intimacy comes next after foreplay has been established. Now you are flooded with oxytocin. Ladies, you're going to notice this sensation because your system is lubricated faster. Your orgasms are easier. They're stronger. There's multiples of them, perhaps. You're going to notice with the man, girth changes as blood flow and oxygen supply goes into him. Girth increases. Okay? Ladies, if you've ever noticed a difference between when your man is stressed out and when he's calm, girth difference, oxytocin. Massive change, okay? After sex and intimacy and all that bonding, if you've had good bonding, loving, intimate sex, not cranking out, a quickie, then more oxytocin flows. And then you lead into bonding, connecting, playing, snuggling, tickling, laughing, what we call aftercare. And that creates a desire for more emotional connection after the fact, for the rest of the day, which repeats the cycle, which builds stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And as you build this oxytocin loop, now you have a robust sexual desire for each other with great sexual performance on both sides, by the way. But most couples ignore those first steps. They leap to step 6 and they skip the bonding foundation completely that makes him crave you specifically rather than just seeking a quick dopamine or mechanical release. He has zero oxytocin. He gets spiked because he sees something on social media at a 72-hour window when he's male ovulating. And he goes, I need some stress relief. And he comes, finds you, and it's like a Viking attack at maximum. And usually he's not even doing that. He turns to his phone instead, right? And without this pipeline, sex becomes, at best, mechanical, dopamine seeking instead of bonding, which is why couples say, well, we feel like roommates. Even touch feels transactional. The missing piece that most couples skip, a big one, aftercare. The bonding hormone oxytocin primarily activates in a big way after climaxes, especially for men, not during. Now, during sex, oxytocin can activate in men if you're having not intimate eye contact, face touching, loving. I have another video on how to be the drunk octopus. It's a great video. I highly recommend you go check it out. But using intimacy properly to bond with each other on purpose in a good way is crucial to release oxytocin during sex for men. Otherwise, the only oxytocin he gets is a little bit to push the fluid along. Afterward, though, he's relaxed. His system cools down. Aftercare. Skipping this afterward, jumping up, throwing your pants on, both of you, right? He escapes. That neurochemical reinforcement is lost. It's supposed to make him associate you with pleasure and safety, not, cranked one out. The oxytocin pipeline doesn't just create desire. It makes his arousal specific to you rather than general arousal, transforming I'm aroused by women into I'm aroused by you. Men need this pipeline, but we don't realize it because culture teaches them you should just be spontaneously ready, baby. Go! The truth is that oxytocin, though, becomes the primary driver of male arousal after the first year of any committed relationship. That's why couples tell me, hey, we just function like roommates. Everything feels transactional. We kiss. Even kissing seems like a demand. Barrier number 3 is that he's emotionally starved. He's not just emotionally tired like he thinks, he's starved. If he's been blocked for years and he can't receive love and oxytocin from friends and family or from partners even if you try to offer it, his system's had low oxytocin for decades, avoidant men in particular have this, and high cortisol for decades, leaving him utterly exhausted, burned out, and starved. Now, in a woman, this goes to emotional management. She will protect herself from perceived inadequacies. She'll try to manage other people's feelings and make them happy as she's burned out and exhausted. Men don't do that. They're starved of bonding chemicals that his system needs to function. Men will go into robotic survivor mode. They're so exhausted that their sexual needs feel like another debt that they can't even pay. And your sexual needs feel like a massive debt they can't pay. So he begins to feel ashamed and unsettled and pulls away. When you ask for closeness, even with sex, you're like, hey, baby, I will do A, B, and C to you tonight. And you just lay there. And he's like, no, I don't have the energy for that. And you're like, how? Decades of emotional starvation, decades of stress, decades of oxytocin gap. They've created an extreme starvation mode where he's not even thinking of opportunities or joy or pleasure or intimacy. This is a vicious cycle. It's the pursuit for connection that then triggers his withdrawal further because his system can't process your needs as a positive thing. It feels like pressure. Hey, babe, I'm really tired tonight and I'm lonely. Can you give me some love and affection? Come on. You've been fighting at work all day. Come on. Come stimulate me. That's what he's hearing. When you're like, let me serve you, he's like, I don't have the energy to stimulate you tonight. What? That's why this begins to make sense. He's emotionally starved and mechanical. Now, unfortunately, this triggers emotional starvation in you. And this leaves you needing closeness more than ever. And he becomes increasingly more put off by it and unable to provide it, and then more ashamed of that. Decades of damage inside his system from other issues, stress, oxytocin drop, it makes him withdraw from intimacy attempts rather than embrace them. Even if he just said, okay, it would start to improve. But he can't even do that because he's exhausted. No, babe, not tonight. Thanks. Now, barrier number 4 is the dopamine trap. When oxytocin fails, his brain becomes dependent on dopamine for any sexual arousal. I've had clients come in and he's like, Adam, I secretly, I can't perform. So when my wife is in the bathroom, I have to pull up a video and watch it really quick to get aroused. And then I can perform with her. And I've never told her this. This creates a dangerous progression through 3 key stages. 1 is dopamine overload. His brain becomes dependent on novelty for arousal, porn, fantasy, stimulation, short-circuiting his oxytocin pipeline even more because he can't get arousal without relationship connection. Now it just says, we're not even going to go there. Oxytocin receptors collect dust, hyper-focus into dopamine. Now, unfortunately, stage 2 of that is tolerance. Dopamine receptors begin to burn out with that same level of connection. So you need more stimulation for the same effect. You can perform with pixels on screen as they're escalating. There's no bonding required. You can just go up from vanilla stuff to stuff that will put you in prison with no emotional labor, no vulnerability needed. You can just escalate out of control. So checking a video quick, for 30 seconds, but while she's in the bathroom, turns out, hey, wait, babe, I got to watch this 10-minute video. Do you want to watch it with me? And she's like, no, not really. Do I have to? And then when that's not working, it's, babe, I think I need more variety. Can we bring another girl in? Can we explore an open relationship? And she's like, no, I really don't want to do that either. Well, I don't know. I don't think this is going to work then. That's how a lot of women get roped into open relationships right there, by the way. I know that a lot of the people watching this show right now have had attachment issues for their entire life. That's why I want to invite every single one of you to check out my attachment repair program. It just might be the jump that you need to go from insecurely attached and lonely and frustrated to fully secure, connected, and bonded in a great relationship like nothing you've ever felt before. Check out my website, adamlanesmith.com, for the attachment repair program. Now, unfortunately, all of this loops into stage 3, complete detachment. Novelty dopamine from the relationship fades completely. Dopamine arousal collapses. They've escalated as much as they can. Sex feels empty and mechanical because there's no connection underneath. She begins to feel miserable in it, and he knows that. This explains, by the way, why he can use escalating porn twice a day, but he hasn't touched you in 6 months. He's able to perform with dopamine and pixels alone somewhere in the bathroom or something because it taps into something you can no longer access. And everything in American culture, especially in particular, it's like we suggest for couples, spice it up, lingerie, toys, videos. It's trying to build dopamine when the real problem is missing the oxytocin and the elevated cortisol. Now, trying to fix this issue with more novelty and excitement, look, it's like trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in the bottom. But the good news is that neuroplasticity in the brain means his brain can rewire at any age. And I'm going to show you through the rest of this video exactly how to do that. But if these barriers sound painfully familiar, here's what's happening. You've been trying to rebuild sexual chemistry without fixing the foundation of your relationship. You've been decorating a house that's built on quicksand. I built the How to Build a Secure Marriage video course for exactly this situation. Inside that course, you're going to learn the specific interventions that interrupt these barriers and how to rebuild the neurochemical foundation that makes him crave you. Now, the link to that video is in the description, and you need to pick up your copy now. You probably needed it 6 months ago, but don't leave this video completely, because I want to talk to you next about how to build his desire for you. Here's the recovery sequence that actually begins to work. And it's kind of a backwards approach from what most people would do. Most women skip to step 4 of this process, which is, yes, adding novelty and dopamine. Much later, they do it first, when his nervous system is flooded with cortisol. That's like trying to repair a fracture on a house with duct tape. Yep, the foundations are destroyed and my house is cracked wide open. Let me just duct tape that closed. No, it's not going to work. Okay? The correct sequence has to address the barriers in reverse order of how they developed. First, you reduce the cortisol. Then you increase vasopressin. We'll talk about that. Then you rebuild the oxytocin pipeline. Then last, you layer dopamine on top as a spice to enjoy together. Skipping to dopamine, lingerie, movies, when his system is overwhelmed, will fail every time, because you're treating symptoms, not root causes. So let's go through this 4-step process to rebuild your man's desire for you. Not just get him to have sex with you, but rebuild his personal desire for you. First, we've got to remove and reduce life friction. Okay, it doesn't mean perfect, but you have to approach him as a teammate. I love you, babe. You are fantastic. You're amazing. You're crushing it at work. And I respect you tremendously for the hard work that you do. And I also want to say, even the best CEO on the planet needs a team pulling behind him. I know you've had a lot of stress. Let's sit down and address all the friction points in your life and figure out what we can do about it together. You build aggressive plans to tackle these life stressors, work stress, financial pressure, health issues. You don't have to fix them today, but you can't get them fixed ever until you're naming the problems and tackling them. This, by the way, as you build this and you reduce cortisol, you remove life friction, you work together and show him you even care. He's probably never had someone do this before. This is something you can do for him. It creates massive vasopressin. Vasopressin is a hormone release, especially in a man's brain. We have more receptors for it than women do, that says, you are my ally. When I'm hurting, you're there for me. It actually activates protectiveness, defensiveness, good defensiveness over you, where he wants to care for you and be with you and trust you. And this inspires oxytocin bonding. It opens up his receptors. When he is with you, he rests instead of being on guard. That reduces cortisol, flatlines it. It gets his testosterone up. It gets him breathing again, which opens his oxytocin receptors. So first step, name, categorize, and begin planning to remove life friction points. Now, step 2 is to intentionally trigger the release of vasopressin, that bonding hormone. Shared goals are very important here. Partnership, okay? As you tackle stressors together, vasopressin stimulates the desire for oxytocin bonding. His brain says, when I was overwhelmed, you stepped in and we worked on it together. It's not rescuing him. It's coming alongside him and doing with 2 people what 1 person alone can't do. This triggers mate protectiveness, even territorialness. Ladies, if you've ever dreamed of him kind of like gently pushing you against the wall, doing the wall slam and leaning over you, territorialness, he's like, hey, you're mine, right? In a good relationship, ladies, that feels good, right? Territorialness means high vasopressin. That's why women love that instinct in a man. Working as a team transforms how his brain sees you, from a source of pressure to a trusted ally and companion that he wants to protect and bond with. This stage is crucial because vasopressin creates a foundation that makes him crave closeness and intimacy with you specifically. And it reduces his cortisol by managing that in a better way. His system says, even if the outside world is scary and hard, you are soft and warm, and I rest with you. You want him to come home to you. Vasopressin is that feeling. Now, step 3 is not just coming home, but being fully in belonging at home. You're not just coming home, you love your home. Rebuilding the oxytocin pipeline step by step is number 3. Okay. Cortisol is beginning to be reduced a bit, so his receptors are creaking open. Vasopressin is richly enhanced, solving problems together, and you can start the oxytocin pipeline step by step. Emotional safety, leading into emotional intimacy, leading into non-sexual touch, scalp scratchies, massages, gently rubbing, leaning up against him more often, right? Ladies, there's the famous, like, you walk up to him, put your hands on his chest and rest your front accessories on him, right? Every woman knows this trick. Non-sexual touch leading into sexual touch. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Leading into sexual connection. I definitely meant to do that, right? All of this weaving into sexual touch, building his desire and arousal for you. As you do this for several days or even weeks, it begins to build up inside him as a reservoir, and you're going to see a few things. Now, sexual touch is fun. Now, foreplay is fun. Now, you could say things like, let's take at least 10 minutes to explore each other's bodies before we begin. There's a fun challenge, right? And as that happens, his oxytocin surges, so does yours. Sexual intimacy happens, bonding, connection, intimacy. And afterward, you say, no, let's spend at least 10 minutes with each other, right? Go watch my earlier video, how women use sexual intimacy wrong. You're going to see after, you need to rest him, his face on your sweaty bosom. You need to rest his face here for full oxytocin effect. Go watch that video, you'll understand. But this builds that cycle. His confidence is going to surge because he's had some of the best sexual performance of his life and the best feelings. It'll be so good it confuses him. I'll never forget, one of my female clients came in after doing this and said he's never felt more relaxed and connected and bonded, and he slept deeper than ever. And he told me, I think it's your blankets. They're really soft. Ladies, he doesn't even have to get it. Okay? But he can begin feeling it. Not only does this begin an intense specific sexual desire for you, where you're not competing with dopamine anymore, porn can't give him this, but a more robust arousal, longer lasting experiences, stronger orgasms, everything improves. Okay? The oxytocin pipeline builds brick by brick, creating very specific, focused sex drive and arousal toward you, where he sees you as his trusted companion, and he craves that closeness with you. Ladies, this is where he begins chasing you around the house, and you're having a great time staying just one step ahead, right? You love to get caught, but you like the chase too. This is where you feel that. Now, this is where step 4, dopamine comes in as a multiplier effect. Now you can heap on additional novelty dopamine, lingerie, toys, new experiences, joy, intimacies, pleasures, experimenting, playing. It becomes a multiplier on top of the secure bonding foundation. Okay? This is where dopamine is good, because now it builds reward centers for connect to your beloved wife and also experience fun, kinky sex. It's building incredible experiences together rather than trying to have fun and just push on it, rather than novelty being the entirety of your sex life. The result here is that he will not only desire you again, but you'll have more incredible sex together than he's ever had in his life anywhere. And that loops back around to build even more positive associations. This is where you play. This is where novelty dopamine is experiential and fun, and you get to experience cool stuff together. And this is where you're going to be, ladies, more open to experimentation and play too, because you'll feel safe and loved. Now, I want to be really clear here for everybody who's watching this video, because as much fun as this sounds like, you're probably not there yet. You started watching this video because you're still at the dark point, the lost point, the cold point, okay? I want to be very clear. Your bedroom didn't die because you got older or unattractive or he just doesn't like you anymore. It didn't die because you gained weight, right? It didn't die because that's just what happens in long-term relationships. It died because the pipeline for connection shut down. But here's what gives me hope working with all my couples, and even as a married man myself with 5 kids, by the way, understanding these 4 barriers means that you can finally address the real problems instead of trying solutions that were never going to work. When couples rebuild that oxytocin pipeline and they address the stress that's hijacking his nervous system, something remarkable happens. The man who couldn't maintain arousal, so he hides in the bathroom, he transforms into someone who actively desires you. A man who initiates intimacy with gusto. A man who genuinely feels connected and makes eye contact with you and smiles at you during sex. You stop being 2 people going through motions and you become lovers who can't get enough of each other. Now, I've seen couples who hadn't had sex in over a year completely transform their intimacy using these exact 4 steps. I know that this science works, but it only works when you understand what you're actually fixing. The breakthrough happens when you stop trying to seduce a stressed nervous system and you start creating conditions where desire can flourish naturally. Now, I want to be very clear here. This process will begin and feel incredible. But if you want to build a relationship that thrives for your entire lives and has this high sex life as a great point, but intimacy, trust, respect, fulfillment, all of it, you need more than this one video. You need my How to Build a Secure Marriage video course. It will show you all of that. This is just one piece of a much larger picture. I'm Adam Lane Smith, the attachment specialist. Please make sure you're subscribed. Leave a comment below with your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. Check out the link below for the How to Build a Secure Marriage video course. Check it out and see what it can do for you and your sex life today. And make sure you come back for the next video. I'll see you there.